let me give you a little backdrop of how I got started in the sport and why I'm here or how I got here. I went on a guy's trip with a friend of mine. He's like, well, I'm gonna get you guys going into rock climbing, he says. And so we go kayaking for a day, and then he's like, you know, we go out to, you know, this is New River Gorge, of course, mind you. If you guys have never been there, as far as like hiking or climbing or anything like that, it's absolutely beautiful. One of the best places that you can go on the East Coast. World-renowned climbing, and he's like, he's looking at this like rock face, and we're like, holy crap, like this is incredible. And he's like, yeah, we'll get you on that wall. We'll get you going. So within the next hour, I learned how to belay. I learned how to set up some bolts and just learn how to climb like right then and there. Like, so it's like, that was like the real deal, you know, like, and if you don't like it, that's pretty much going to determine whether or not you do or don't. So it was like such an incredible experience for me that I just became like an instant rock climber and have been in love with it ever since. So bouldering is like the easiest, as far as gear goes, the bouldering is the easiest to get into. Why is that? Because pretty much all you need is shoes, as you can see. All right, so if you've seen these before, if you first started bouldering for your very first time or climbing for your very first time, this is kind of what you're looking at, right? So I don't think I need to pass this down. I don't think I want to because it's probably small. So the shoes are pretty flat, right? We got the rubber on it, so it can work anywhere as far as like sticking to any sort of rock face or any sort of gym rock face. But it's not aggressive. It's not uncomfortable, as uncomfortable as some other shoes, right? But then we have something that is a little bit more aggressive, and this is like your typical, we'll say, better bouldering shoe. This is actually one of the really good sellers. This is called the Agro. We sell this here. And as you can see, it's a little bit more aggressive in terms of the angle of the shoe, right? It kind of does this, it's a little bit more flexible for that. We have the top, which is covered, so this, not so much here, right? Because this is used for heel hooks in the back and using toe hooks in the front. So you kind of need that rubber. You kind of need that aggression. It's really generally an uncomfortable shoe, but it's more an advanced shoe as far as climbing goes. So if you're jumping into climbing, this is probably not the shoe that you would want to go for. As far as like, I just started climbing for about 6 months. What should I buy? Probably not. But if you're fully immersing yourself in the sport and you've been around for a while, this is probably the way to go. It's a little bit more expensive as well. So moving on to, this is something that I would say you can use for bouldering as well as some other types of climbing. Just because it's not as aggressive as the other shoe. And actually, I'm gonna press it, pat around. You guys can pass it around. But you can see it's kind of it's just as aggressive, or it's more aggressive than the beginner shoe. And it's got the top again for the toe hooks, and it's got the back for the heel hooks, but not as aggressive as the Agro. And this is a good, like, okay, I like the sport, this is where I'm gonna head, you know. This is actually one of the best selling shoes, not only for Evolv, but also for just all around, the Shamans. So if you don't have the Shamans or you don't know anything about this is probably like the Air Jordans of rock climbing shoes. I'll pass that around. As you can see, the last two shoes are Velcro. And a lot of times with Velcro, they're not as comfortable as a lace-up shoe. And I don't have any lace-up shoes with me here, but lace-up shoes are generally more comfortable. You're not gonna find that many bouldering shoes that are lace-up because again, it's less about comfort and more about the performance of the shoe. So you're not really gonna see as many. There are some though, I'm not saying that there isn't, but there are some that are all lace-ups. And then this is the Defy. So like if you're jumping into climbing, that's a little bit more extreme than this. This is more like closer to the your beginner shoe. I would recommend this if you're like, I'm kind of climbing, but I'm not really sure where I'm gonna go yet. I'm not really sure if I'm gonna be a boulder yet. So this is kind of the way you're gonna go. As far as top roping goes, you're generally if you're top roping, you're gonna spend a lot more time on the rock, a lot more time, and here's one. That's not as aggressive. A lot more time on the rock, a lot more time less sitting down. So a lot of times you'll see boulders pulling off their shoes in between climbs because they really are uncomfortable. So this is something that's a little bit more comfortable, and not, like I said, with the lacing. And this is what you could use for trad and as well as for top roping. And the reason being is because do you really want do you really want this yanking at your feet all day, or do you want something like this that you can climb it all day? So this is more of like your trad top rope climbing shoe. Not as aggressive, still does the job, better than your beginning shoe. Good rubber. So that's typically what you'd lean for. So you've probably seen this. If you have big teeth, this is also a really great tooth, as you can see. No, not really. So this is a brush, and it basically just cleans the chalk off bouldering problems if it's super chalky. So that too much chalk, it prevents you from actually clinging on to the purpose of chalk is so that you do cling to the rocks, you do cling to the bouldering problems. So this just brushes it off. A lot of times you'll see this in like bouldering comps before they're like getting ready for like to attack a problem. They're usually like, brushing off the excess. So that's what this is. So that, as far as bouldering goes, that's all you need. Good shoe, maybe a climbing brush if you want to. That's it, and a chalk bag. Okay, so I don't know if you guys know what a chalk bag is, but this is pretty much it. It's pretty simple. I forgot to talk about one more thing, bouldering pads. So if you're outside, bouldering pads are also what climbers outside use. Yeah, for their fall. So generally, you would spot a climber if they get like a certain, usually like above like a head level. You're usually spotting your climbers to prevent an injury. I don't have any bouldering pads here. These kind of like take the place of bouldering pads. But obviously, like if you're outside, you don't have this, so that's what you're buying this. They're relatively expensive. They're about $200, give or take. So you usually, and that's a pop, and you usually need about 4. You need a little bit more gear as far as top roping goes. You're gonna have your harness, which you guys were doing top roping downstairs, so you guys are aware of what a harness kind of looks like. Here's mine, and what it consists of. These are the ATCs. If you're not Blaze certified yet, this is typically what you're gonna get Blaze certified on using, or what you typically buy for. They're a little bit more cheaper in terms of your first purchase goes. You generally won't find anything more than like 40 bucks, 30 to 40 bucks, 20 bucks, depending on where you get it. Very simple. This is just where you thread the rib to. So gree. This is what a lot of climbers are using now indoors in. And I'll pass this as mine. I'll pass this one around. It's a little bit more complicated in terms of mechanics goes. It's a little bit more expensive, but it's also more safer. So as far as climbing statistics goes, there are a couple of climbing accidents that didn't result in death, but they would have been prevented if they had to use an assisting braking device, which is what this uses. And essentially, it protects you from, if you let go of the rope, it's gonna protect your climber.